Hello, everybody. Back again with Pat McGrew, and we're talking about all the fabulousness that will be Drupa, Hall 17, HP PageWide Press area of the giant HP. I don't know if you can really call it a booth.
Hall, right? So it is a giant hall that has a lot of stands inside it.
And my understanding is that it's 17,500 square meters, this tiny little space you guys have.
So it's the hall is something just south of 9,000 square meters, and that converts into something close to what you said in square feet.
Feet, oh, feet, okay.
So, the way we've been talking about it is between 8 and 9,000 square meters in Hall 17, plus HP has another customer lounge area over in Building 7. And then there's the Innovation Cube too. The 3D guys are over in the Innovation Cube.
Wow, amazing. So we are doing a series of videos highlighting what we're calling hashtag PWP partners, two P's there. And that is basically telling the story of all of the work that HP is going to be printing in the booth during the show and before the show, and as well as how you guys are working with all of your finishing partners and your media/paper partners and technology partners. And speaking of which, a question that comes up more often than not when we have been discussing inkjet with the printers out there is, how does this fit into my current workflow? Do I need a new workflow? Is this something I can't manage? Is this something I need to learn? So why don't we start with this, the topic of workflow, since quite frankly, until that's figured out, you kind of can't move to the next step, right?
Absolutely true. So workflow in our world it sort of starts at the point where somebody needs to get something printed. And it is all those steps along the way until it actually winds up out on the end of a finishing partner's device, right? There's a long series of steps. Now, some organizations have built their workflow out by buying bits and pieces along the way and bolting them together in a way that works for their organization. Other organizations will go out and they'll buy what's called an end-to-end workflow product, where the workflow product sits as a hub and it touches each part of the process, from moving the file from design into pre-flighting and then into pre-press and imposition, on color management, into the press, and then tracks it all the way through, right? So workflow can be a really big thing that is a single end-to-end product, or it can be something that the customer creates for themselves and just knows how it all works. In our world, we started taking a look at workflow and trying to figure out what our customers needed to know about workflow in order to be successful. So to answer one of your questions, do you have to buy something new in order to work with a PageWide web press? And the answer is no, you probably don't. Although you may want to update some things that you're doing. You may find that some of the products or services you're currently using, or things that you've created for yourself, might need to be updated, because we're talking about a really fast press, right? The T490 that we're bringing to drupa can go up to 1,000 feet per minute. That's over 300 meters per minute. This is a big, fast press. So if your workflow components, like all your pre-press components and your imposition and all of the things that are feeding the press, are not capable of doing high-speed delivery, then you may want to go back and revisit. Either, maybe you need to upgrade to a new level, maybe you just need to add the maintenance, maybe you need to look at whole new products. So in our workflow area, in the application area in Hall 17, we have some lovely team members who specialize in workflow, and they'll be there to talk about a lot of the things that you need to look out for when you're moving into this high-speed web print area. Now, one of the things we'll be talking about is an HP product called Production Center. And Production Center is something that Indigo customers will know very well because it has been around and it's been crafted and hewn, and the user interface has been made really tight over the last few years of testing with Indigo customers. Now, after this year, you'll be able to use that with your PageWide web press as well. And since almost every PageWide web press in the world has an Indigo sitting next to it, you probably already have it if you've got an Indigo and you're going to join us in the inkjet world. And if you don't have an Indigo, Production Center can be enabled just for linking all of your workflow components to act as the bridge out to the press to make sure that the loads are balanced correctly, especially if you have multiple presses. So Production Center is a really cool tool. But HP didn't stop there. Coming to Drupa, we are coming with a brand new thing we're calling Print OS. And Print OS, right? This is a really
well,
cool
I saw that at D-Scoop. It was 10 deep to get near this booth.
No, because the whole idea of Print OS is to rethink the idea of workflow. So we're all used to apps on our phones, and we're all used to upgrading our laptops, you know, for the operating system, or our Macs, you know, going from lion to tiger, mice,
and bears, oh my.
Yeah. So, I mean, we're all used to that. Well, honestly, your printing workflow, you should think about the same way. You should think about it as an application that ties all these bits and pieces together. So Print OS, it's designed to treat printing as an operating system, and to be smart enough to know what kind of file it has to deliver to which kind of device, right? Because the file that you might deliver to an Indigo is not going to be identical to the file that you deliver to a PageWide web press, even if the content's identical. And that might sound strange, but we have customers who do this. If they only need a few and they need it for maybe a proof of concept, they'll run it on an Indigo, but then when it actually goes into production, it may go into production on their PageWide web press. So the files won't be the same. You'll have to color correct the files a little bit differently. You want to style your PDF a little bit differently, but that's what you can do in Print OS. You can make these decisions about what kind of file gets delivered where, and you can tag it for the kind of finishing it's expecting, so that all that information is carried with the file. And so when it reaches the finishing, if it's not inline finishing and it's nearline finishing, it can still be handled correctly. So we're really excited about Print OS. So what we're going to do is we'll actually have Print OS monitors by each one of our presses on the stand. So if you go by the T490HD or the T230, there will be a monitor there that will be the Print OS view of our presses as they're working live. And because we're going to start printing so early before the show starts, you'll actually be able to see the history of all of the printing all the way along. So you'll get a good sense of what it looks like in production and not just what it looks like during a show. So we're really excited by the prospect of it. And the other thing that we'll be doing in our workflow area is we'll be featuring one of our customer partners. So we work very closely with the team at Rotamail. And the team at Rotamail, they're just an amazingly visionary group of people. Giovanni and Alessandro Antonuzzo and Giorgio Albertini, their whole team there, they look to do things differently. They like to differentiate themselves. So out of all that differentiation, they've actually developed a product called Bronte. And Bronte is their Book of One solution. They support a number of the big print-on-demand book publishers around the world, and they took a look at all the things they were being asked to do, and they found a way to productize it, and they'll now be selling it, and we're going to be one of their partners to sell it. So off we go, right? So you'll be able to come and see Bronte and see how that workflow works. You'll be able to see some of the output of their Bronte work. We'll have some of the books from their workflow. And for some of the days, not every day, but on quite a few of the days, we'll actually have somebody from the Bronte team in the booth as well. And then, of course, if you want to know more about Print OS in a workflow context, there will be a whole Print OS area on further down the hall from us, in addition to the monitors that we'll have. So it's a big story workflow.
It really is, and understanding a little more in depth about the concerns of the community, let's say, the printers and the printers out there, because that's who I'm connected to. Workflow, optimizing processes, upgradability, pretty much everything you've just touched upon is super important to everybody. And I think the fact that it works with the Indigos, if they happen to have one, or can work independently from them, or can that also integrate into other systems?
You could. So there is nothing about PrintOS and nothing about even Production Center that limits you from tying in other bits and pieces of your overall print service environment to be monitored through these solutions. So there's an API, and you can map pretty much everything in.
I mean, that is exactly what the printers are looking for as far as those solutions these days. So kudos to HP. Thanks for explaining it to everybody. And next we're going to talk about...
We're going to be talking about our technology. And you're going to like this, because we're going to talk about HDNA a little bit.
Ooh, yay.
And then we're going to talk about why you care about HDNA. And we're going to talk about it in the context of how our customers will be using it.
Okay, fantastic. So don't forget, follow hashtag PWP Partners, 2 Ps, PWP Partners on Twitter, and at Pat McGrew on Twitter, and at Print Media Center on Twitter, and all the other channels. And we'll be right back with technology.